is a presentation of Main Street Media, your source for news, sports, and information on Main Street in Middle Tennessee.
Hello, everybody. We are so happy to be back and bringing you the MSP North Podcast. I'm Brady McAtamney. Over there is Blaine in a very fancy new studio. Fans of George Plaster might recognize that. Blaine, how you doing?
I am in George's spot today, not at 4, so don't be alarmed, but, excited to be in this studio, this wonderful studio. Excited to be back on the MSP North Podcast, Brady.
Absolutely, I am too. I'll have my own studio eventually, but for now, I'm still back here in my apartment, my cozy little home here in Clarksville. But as usual, we had a great show lined up for you today as we kick off the fall edition of the MSP North Podcast. We're going to start off with some football talk here as we stay in Clarksville with the head coach of the Clarksville Wildcats, Isaac Shelby. Isaac, how are we doing today, man?
Oh, pretty good. Appreciate it, guys.
Of course, and I got to imagine you're doing a little bit better this week because it is finally game week. And it's the first game week that you'll have your starting quarterback, Devin Geringer, back since 2020. How big is his return for your team?
It's big. I mean, he's a talented kid. He's a great leader. He's a great quarterback. He has the ability to spread the ball around the field and get it to all the skill guys where we didn't quite have that last year. We kind of had to play a different way, but we're excited about it. It's going to be fun to see that kid play football again because you see how hard he works every day.
Yeah, you mentioned last year you guys went to the postseason last year as the number 4 seed without a quarterback. You guys were playing guys like Jamar Carnell there. I think Robert Riley took some snaps, Rashawn Bowling. Really kind of a hodgepodge of quarterback play. Mm-hmm. And you guys were going up against number 1 seed Cane Ridge and got a big upset win over them before falling to Beach in the second round. But do you guys think that you're going to be able to build off of that playoff momentum that you had from last year?
Well, I mean, you hope so. I mean, you won't know until you actually get going. But, I don't see any reason that we wouldn't. We return a lot of guys from that team. And, especially with COVID too, there's been a lot of guys last year that played that, because of injury or COVID that probably shouldn't have. And, they're back. So hopefully that kind of lends to more experienced football team than we had.
Coach Shelby, you open week 1 at home against McGavock, and it's a different team this year. Yourselves, obviously, we've kind of mentioned these different pieces that are finally getting to be back in the places where they belong. But, McGavock pops out on the page as well with 4-star, athlete Demetrius Bell committed to Michigan State. That's a tall task in week 1, and I think you guys experienced that a little bit last year. Give us a scouting report a little bit on him, what to expect, and, what you guys have kind of told your players in preparation for him this week.
Yeah, definitely a dynamic athlete. He can really run. He catches the ball well. He's a special player. When you flip on the tape, it's pretty easy to see why, a great program like Michigan State would want him to be a part of it. He's definitely a great player, but I think that team's a lot more than Bell. They've got a lot of good players. Like you flip on the tape, Coach Burnett's doing a good job. They're really grown over the year. They've got a lot of athletes, and Bell's incredible, but I don't think people give his teammates quite the respect that they need to get as well.
Yeah, you guys beat them by a couple scores last year, same week 1 of the 2021 season. Do you guys think that that's something that you're capable of repeating?
You never know, man. It's they're a really good team, and we're going to try to play our best football, but it's high school football. It changes day to day. When you can have a bad day because somebody's girlfriend broke up with them, and lose a game like that. So it's hard to tell, but I expect them to show up here Friday night and be super good competition for us.
Coach, when you mention not only Demetrius Bell, but another cast of characters who maybe don't get as much credit at McGavock, who are some of those guys that you've maybe penciled in, circled for your players to keep tabs on tonight?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, but Marcellus Bass is one. He's a really good football player. There's a bunch of them, but he's Marcellus Bass is he can play for sure. but it's just a talented team. They can really run. That's why we scheduled them. Like, that's what we want to see. If we're lucky enough to make the playoffs, we're probably going to draw a Metro team that, generally can really run. So, that's why we want to schedule and play McGavick and Maplewood, is to prepare ourselves down the road for teams that have great speed like they do.
Yeah, you mentioned hopefully making the playoffs like you did last year. I'm wondering what you're expecting out of the region this year. Obviously, very competitive last year with teams like Hendersonville, Beach, and Gallatin finishing ahead of you. Rossview and West Creek, of course, in the region as well. Have you looked at anything with those teams that at least finished above you this year? Anything that you might come to expect out of those teams this year?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen them all, and you look at it all off season. Beach, Gallatin, Hendersonville are, absolute Sumner County football factories, and they're coached well. They have great talent. They're strong. It's just a really tough league. And then you got us, Rossview, and West Creek here, that are kind of the other part of that league. And West Creek's going to be much improved with Coach Gallowitz at the helm. He's going to do a great job. And we all really respect what Coach Hood does. He runs a great program there too. So, it's who knows what could happen.
Yeah, definitely should be competitive as always. And remind me to ask you in the future about a game that you might have lost because someone's girlfriend broke up with them.
Yeah, I mean, you're high school kids. You never know.
Absolutely. You definitely never know. Well, Isaac, I appreciate you taking a couple minutes out of your day here to talk with us. I assume you had plenty of game prep left to go after, and we will see you on Friday.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
We're going to head to a quick break here. When we come back, Chase Brooks, head football coach at East Robertson, will be joining us here on the MSP North Podcast.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
MSP North Podcast. Blaine Keller here with Brady McAtamney. Brady, we were hoping to get East Robertson head football coach Chase Brooks, and we're hoping to get him maybe a little later into the show today. But, let's just look around the counties. Let's look around Robertson and Montgomery County, looking at week one of the high school football season. What are we excited about? What are we expecting out of week one this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, week one is going to be exciting no matter what, right? Like it's you hear the band playing, you see the crowds funneling into the stadium, you hear those pads pop for the first time. Like there's really nothing quite like that first week of football action. Personally, I'm going to be right there with Coach Shelby there at Clarksville High as I watch them take on McGavick. I think that's going to be a pretty exciting game. Like you said, McGavick's got a lot of really good athletes. There's some other really good football games, I think, around the area. Battle of first-year head coaches are going to be going on over at West Creek with Rob Gallowitz coaching West Creek, like Coach Shelby mentioned, and Northeast, who is being coached by Claude Townsend this year. I actually had a chance to meet him for the first time at a volleyball game of all places earlier this week. He's very excited about the program. Both those teams had really good jamboree performances, with West Creek beating East Hickman 21-7 and Northeast 46-0 over Fort Campbell. Stings a little bit to say. So those two teams are going to be facing off. It's going to be fun. Montgomery Central hosting Sycamore, and then a couple other teams heading out of the county. I think there's going to be some teams showing off their new looks this year with 4 new head coaches in the county.
If you were to pick one Montgomery County head coach in their first year to have the most success, who would you pick and why?
I think I would go with Claude Townsend. I like what Northeast has this year. They got a lot of really good athletes over there. He's got kind of a unique path to head coaching at Northeast, having previously coached semi-pro football, which is not something you see often. He was a former assistant coach at Northwest, went to semi-pro. He's a former server in the Army. I don't remember exactly what his rank was off the top of my head, but he was in the U.S. Army. That's what brought him to Clarksville originally at Fort Campbell. But I think that they have a pretty good chance to be pretty good this year.
Looking in Robertson County, we kind of touched on East Robertson, Chase Brooks there a second ago. Chase Brooks, a first-year head coach in its own right, assisted at Beach, Portland, Riverdale, Smyrna. I think I'm forgetting a few, but he's been an assistant coach for a long time, and he's got his first shot as a head coach this Friday when East Robertson hosts Macon County. Should be a pretty interesting game depending on who plays for East Robertson. Of course, you've got a great rivalry with Springfield and Greenbrier starting out. Brady, you don't hear much about teams beating other rivals 8 times in a row, much less not allowing the other team to score against them for 3 straight years. But that's what Springfield's done. I mean, it's just been absolutely dominant. But, this could be the year that Greenbrier not only scores some points, but could make a run at things. I mean, I've picked them. I've picked Springfield to beat them 31-13 in the Pitt Carroll Trophy rivalry game. But, I still think that Greenbrier is going to show some improvement from the jump this season as they try to battle in Region 5-4A. Another first-year coach, Chad Broderick, for White House Heritage, they're going to go to Bowling Green and face off against Warren East, a really impressive team in the Kentucky area. And then you've got some other teams, South Haven, CCS, already getting their season started in 8-man football. White House plays Station Camp. Blue Devils are trying to replace over 4,000 yards. And then you've got, you've just got so much action in this county. You've got so many new coaches, a lot of new players, even at schools like Joe Byrne. But, it's going to be a really exciting first week.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned that Springfield Greenbrier game. I know we're probably going to talk about that game a little bit later, so we don't want to talk too much about it now. But Springfield has kind of just had that reign of terror on Robertson County for years now. I mean, they've just been the best team overall in that county for so long. So pretty good measuring stick for Greenbrier to open their season. I know a lot of people have pretty high expectations for that team this year.
Well, even in week 2, you kind of look at the flip side of that. Springfield being a tough challenge for Greenbrier week 1, but week 2 you faced White House, a team that beats you, pretty handily in the second week of the season last year. Had a lot of defensive dominance in that second week. White House had a surprise season last year, but it's still a tough challenge before you play the next 8 weeks in region play. So, Greenbrier is going to be tested just about every week this season, whether it's against a team that has a lot of dominance or a great track record, or a team that maybe other teams look past, like a Hillwood or a Glencliff. There's going to be challenges all across the way in Region 5-4A, I think.
Yeah, that's just such a difficult region. I mean, 9 different teams, and I know not all of them are, established powerhouses that, teams are shaking in their boots to face, but still, I mean, like you said, it can be so easy to just slip up. Like Coach Shelby said, maybe your quarterback's girlfriend dumps him but right before the game, and he goes out there, throws a couple interceptions or something. I mean, it's such a cutthroat region, and we saw that last year with teams like Montgomery Central going out and becoming the I believe they were the number 3 seed in that region. I mean, people probably didn't expect that from them. So it's definitely Greenbrier definitely has a chance, but it's not going to be easy for them.
Well, anytime you have a region that deep, it's always going to invoke a lot of competition. Think about other regions. Let's throw out another one in Robertson County, Region 4-1A, where Joe Burns competes. They have 4 teams, so everybody makes the playoffs.
Yeah, congratulations on making the playoffs this year.
Yeah, you make the playoffs in week 1. So that's one expectation we can already knock out. Joe Burns will make the playoffs this year. So book it on the MSP North podcast. But like I was saying, you've got a 9-team region, or even less than that. Whenever you have a region where there is a chance of not making the playoffs, that just invokes so much more out of a team to start strong and really battle in those games where it really matters.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Blaine, what do you say we move over to our one thing segment, bringing that back from last year? Always a very fun segment for us to do. What do we say we knock out our one thing and then head to break after?
Absolutely. I'll kick us off here. Let's take a little girls soccer action. Springfield High School will play Thursday in its very first high school match. So their very first high school match at home. The past couple of years, they've been playing at Travis Price Park in Springfield. They've been playing at the middle school. The boys and girls program hasn't really had a high school field until now. It's expected to be opened in 2019. A sinkhole and some natural, disasters kind of limited it from doing that. I believe it was something with the corner. We'll get some more information on that on Thursday. Be on the lookout, mainstreetpreps.com for that. But the opportunity for them to finally play at home will definitely, I think, boost the program a little bit. I think that definitely helps whenever you're not having to travel off campus to play home matches.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a crazy thing, especially for a program like Springfield, who has so much tradition, to just not have had a home field. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Keeping it in girls soccer, though, I want to talk about West Creek girls soccer. This is a team that really started being on the rise about 2 years ago, where they were like an okay team. Last year, they made it to the district championship and lost to Clarksville there. This year, they opened their season playing that same Clarksville team, the same team who has won the district tournament 10 straight years. So this is a pretty good team they're playing. They took them to overtime, lost by 1 goal with about 9 minutes left in the game. But I mean, Andrew Smith, their head coach, was telling them in the huddle, like, you guys can be a state championship team. You just took the best team for 50 miles to 11 minutes in overtime. And Madison Bennett, hat trick for them. She was my player of the year in the county last year as a sophomore. She's not wasting any time here in her junior season. And get this, their current seniors at West Creek, when they played Clarksville as freshmen, lost 9-0. So that shows how far this program has come in a pretty short amount of time.
Well, it's impressive. And it's also interesting to see that 2 dynamic side that you kind of wrote in your story there. It's a 5-4 win, if I'm not mistaken, for Clarksville. Is that right?
That's right.
It's 5-4, and Sarah Klutz, the Clarksville coach, was really disappointed in how they played. Wow.
That's right.
Andrew Smith says this is a state tournament team. So just a very interesting dynamic there after the first game of the year. But man, what a way to start the season.
Yeah, it was a heck of a soccer game.
Going to one thing number 2 in Robertson County. We already touched a little bit on Springfield and Greenbrier's rivalry, but this should be the game to be at this week in Robertson County. You've got 2 teams that are on the rise. They both added some really nice elements. Springfield got a couple of basketball standouts in Kamari and Flair and Kayshawn Cromwell. Flair being a 6'4" receiver, by the way, who's never played football. So that's pretty good for a quarterfinalist team to add that to its mix. But Greenbrier also getting offensive and defensive lineman Elijah Lawson, a Knoxville Catholic transfer who actually played against Walter Nolan last year, the number 2 nationwide prospect from Powell. So, I mean, you've got a guy with a lot of experience on that line coming into a program. Then you've got some weapons on the outside for Springfield, not to mention their quarterbacks coming back, their running backs coming back, and a lot of their offensive line as well. So this should just be a great game to start the year. It's always a nice rivalry to see. I mean, you kind of see it in the Twitter mentions already, but it should be a great one to start off the year.
That's right. And always a good time to see Bobby Bobcat, right?
Absolutely.
I'm looking at my one thing on the Montgomery side for football. I wanted to talk about Northeast. We already mentioned that they beat Fort Campbell 46 to zilch in their Jamboree game. Crazy win. Beat Fort Campbell 46-0, 5 touchdowns in the first half out of their starters. I mean, and when I say first half, I mean 15 minutes. They play 15-minute halves. So that's a touchdown every 3 minutes. 5 of them, five passes, I believe, all from quarterback Jaden Puig, who they need a big year out of after kind of having a little bit of a struggle last season. They believe in him, and he's got some really good weapons, and they're confident in this team.
Let's kick it over to volleyball action to round up my 3-1 things in the Robertson County area. East Robertson hosted Joe Burns and White House Heritage last night. You're talking about 2 programs in Joe Burns and White House Heritage. Heritage reached the sectional round, and Joe Burns won its district for the last 4 seasons. So you've got 2 programs coming in that are really, really good for your second and third game of the regular season, and they win 6 of the 7 sets. They sweep Heritage, and they beat Joe Burns 3-1. I mean, just a great start for East Robertson, especially a program that had lost some big pieces last year. But, they really kicked it off in a big way. Katie Pennington was a big player last night, had a lot of forceful kills. This looks like a team that may really be the top contender in Robertson County. I know it's early, but a couple of big wins really got them off on the right foot.
Yeah, and then on the volleyball court for me, I got the chance to see Northwest versus Northeast on Monday as they started the season. Northwest has a new head coach in Ray Howard, who took over for Amy Paget, who had a couple pretty good years there. They started slow, losing 10-3 in the first set, but they came back, won that set, and eventually took the game 3 out of 4 on Northeast floor. She's very confident about that team. They've got some really good players, and they just showed a lot of cohesion, which is obviously something you want in any sport, but especially volleyball, as you got 6 players out there on one really small side. So you're not running into each other and all that. They looked like a pretty good team, and she said that they're capable of a really big season, and so far I haven't seen anything to say that they're not.
Well, that wraps us up on our One Thing segment here. Brady, let's take one more break before we close out with our game and player of the week segments. You're listening to the MSP North Podcast on Main Street Media TV.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones and Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, ZionEagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's ZionEagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Maury County schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back to the MSP North Podcast. We are going to kind of rapid fire here as we close out the show. Our games of the week and our players of the week. Blaine, why don't you start us off?
Game of the week, if you couldn't tell by now, in Robertson County, we're talking Springfield Greenbrier at the Bobcats Nest Den. I'm not quite sure what they call it. It kind of shows my own first full football season here. I've been there, but it'll be an exciting game no matter how it shapes out. There are great games across Robertson County this week, but, based on what I've said today, it's Springfield Greenbrier. That's the place to be.
Definitely, and much like Blaine, with this being his first week one as a full-time guy, I got a couple full-time guys as well here for my game of the week with Northeast and West Creek. I mentioned that game previously already, but a couple first-year coaches going at it. West Creek figured to be improved from this year from last year, as well as Northeast. Northeast figures to very much be competing for a playoff spot this year. West Creek, they got a little bit more competition in their region. But still, two teams that performed really well in the Jamboree. Both teams have first-year head coaches. I think that's a valuable candidate for a game of the week here in the county.
Brady, it sounds like Kristen DeSantis had a pretty good game against Springfield the other day. Is that your player of the week here in Montgomery County?
That's right. Yeah, Springfield fans, cover your ears because Kristen DeSantis lit Springfield up for 4 goals. Leading Rossview to a 10-0 win. That's right. It was 10, not 9, because they scored all 10 in the first half. They need to play a full half before they can call it, and that's what Rossview did. So Kristen DeSantis led the way there, and Rossview got a big opening night win over Springfield.
It's a big win to get in the district as well to open the season. I mean, pretty interesting task to open the year in district play, but they stepped up and Springfield didn't. We'll see how they play Thursday against Sycamore, but my player of the week, I've mentioned her a little bit earlier, Katie Pennington, by my count, had 19 kills against White House Heritage and Joe Burns combined. Really just had a slew of weapons at her disposal. She's a hard hitter, and if you read the story from yesterday, from Tuesday, you'll see that. But she also had a slew of versatility that she did as time went on, and she really dominated as the sets went on and on. Just a great player and really going to be a leader for East Robertson this year if they're to have any success. So sophomore outside hitter, Katie Pennington, the Robertson County Player of the Week.
That's right. She comes from a volleyball family playing for her dad. Her sister recently graduated. Pretty cool for her. And definitely a player to look forward to seeing this year. But that's going to wrap us up for our first edition of the MSP North Podcast of the fall. We want to thank you so much for joining us. We're looking forward to bringing many more shows for this season and beyond. And thank you guys so much. We will see you again next week.